in the raw. Archives, GUYANA FREE MEDIA, in the raw. Dearest friends, brothers, today is March 17th, Sunday. I came out a bit early, simply yesterday, but the breeze was so wonderful and so heavy that I did not feel like doing any work. I'm showing you, you can judge the movement of the beauty of the breeze from the dancing of the leaves there. I can imagine the waves of the sea, and it means the tides are very, and obviously refreshing there as well in the ocean or rivers. So I'm just enjoying it here all day yesterday, doing reading in my hammock and otherwise. But I thought it necessary to try to bring something out from the media on in the raw. I have with me an article here from the Culture News by leader of the opposition, Norton. Remember, I don't call him Aubrey anymore because his mouth is always bitter. His behavior is rude and crass most times, and his presentations are always most unprofessional, not educative and realistic. But as a Guyanese, and I must be fair to the populace, to the government of Guyana to a level, which I do defend them at times, but as a Guyanese, my heart is with the people of Guyana and what is good for Guyana. This is saying, the opposition is saying, disrespectful for Exxon and government to keep country in the dark on its oil reserves. So Exxon found another massive oil reserve. But somehow or the other, I gather that they are not telling us the amount. Now, that for as a man with a police mentality, I find this abhorrent, unacceptable, and even ridiculous. And I am, and it is known, a friend of investors, positive investors, a friend of Exxon. I don't socialize with them. I don't get invitations from them anymore. I used to at one time. But whatever it is, I must speak the truth. And I'm a friend of Exxon, and I will support, applaud, and encourage Exxon. Okay? So, I'm going to read this because I disagree with whoever is making this statement, and it is not looking good. If it's the government, somewhat responsible, I think if this is true, you're keeping it, then it is wrong. And if Exxon is not telling you the truth, then you as the government, you are supposed to put some needles into them to understand that this country belongs to Guyana and the Guyanese people, and the government as its servant, which was hired by the people, as I told the APNU, they can be fired. Don't take things for granted. In politics, no one must take things for granted. I am a supporter of most things of the government, but as a Guyanese citizen, I cannot accept everything. Now, the office of the leader of the opposition is calling for the release of the updated stop block reserves following the announcement on an 8th discovery on Friday. So Friday gone, the 8th discovery they announced Friday gone. I mean 8th discovery. Since the country received its last resource estimate from ExxonMobil Guyana Limited, EMGL. And somebody has to tell ExxonMobil and my friends at Exxon that I respect, including Mr. Rutledge, the oil belongs to Guyana and not Texas. And we have to pay you for everything you and your managers and your people and your expatriate people use or do or build. We have to pay you back. Even though technically then you're our servant, we are hiring you to drill, and we have to pay you back even though it is said that you are the investor. But are you really the investor? This is something that I have to ask the world out there, including the spokesman of the government of Guyana on oil and gas, Dr. Jagdeo, a man that I have great respect for, a great leader as president, a leader of the country. But many and all great leaders throughout history have made mistakes. And if the government of Guyana is saying this as supporting Exxon, then I say it is a mistake. You need to correct this, Dr. Jagdeo. Excellency President, you need to speak to Dr. Jagdeo, and we need to get Exxon to announce what it is. Or I will suggest, as a lover of this country first, but I will suggest to the leader of the opposition and his grouping to maybe seek a court order. We can order through our court system ExxonMobil to tell us exactly what we have in the earth there. Since April 2022, Exxon has not provided the country with an update on the estimated resources discovered in the Pacific Stabroek block. On Friday, Exxon announced another successful discovery, bluefin, but was tight-lipped on how this increased the country's total recoverable resources from its last estimate of 11 billion barrels some 8 discoveries ago. So why are they keeping it quiet? A man with a police mentality, me, would tell myself and the world that people who hide things are prone to criminality, to fraud. I can't bear to think that this great company like ExxonMobil would want to steal the poor people resources of this country when they are making a killing on everything, even if they buy a pin, a roll of toilet paper. And even for their contractors, we have to pay all their electricity, all their water. So what do? They leave on their electricity 24/7, even though they are not there, and they could burn systems up. I have heard this from very reliable sources, and some people went to show me that the contractors were leaving the electricity, the AC in the rooms, the fans 24/7, because we, the people of Guyana, have to pay for it all. And I go on. In a statement yesterday, the opposition said it supported calls for the nation to be updated on the amount of discovered oil reserves and believe it is disrespectful that the country is being kept in the dark. I think it is very disrespectful of Exxon, and I think that you will have a court case here if the government of Guyana does not put some pressure on them. Maybe the government of Guyana is trying to use psychology and coercion and encouragement, but sometimes you have to do what has to be done. ExxonMobil will always be my friend in Guyana. It said regardless whether it is the company that is keeping the government in the dark or whether the government keeping the people in the dark, that is their release. Whether Mr. Routledge and Exxon are keeping the government in the dark or the government knows and is keeping the people in the dark. So, very interesting. The lack of transparency is totally disrespectful and unacceptable. And I, Haji Dr Roshan Khan, friend of our country, respecter of the President and Dr. Jagdeo, I unfortunately am forced to agree with that. It's disrespectful. The natural resources of Guyana belong to the people of Guyana, and this was my introduction. This is what I introduced in my this presentation today of In the Raw. The Oil and Gas Governance Network, an overseas-based advocacy group for Transparency and Good Governance had accused the government of Guyana of conniving with the oil giant to hide the oil reserves from the country. OGGN had also called for updates to be provided by the company within a month of new discovery. The Oil and Gas Governance Network, OGGN, within a month they needed to make such announcements to the people, and I completely concur with that. It pointed out that its members are well aware of the fact that calculating reserves is the simplest of tasks performed soon after the exploration, beg your pardon. Remember, we are fasting, ladies and gentlemen. The mouth gets a bit dry and so on. And I speak with a lot of vim and vigor. To this end, they concluded that government was conniving with the oil company to hide the nation reserves. I would strongly believe that this is a wrong statement of misunderstanding. I believe the government is waiting, and if it does not come forward, I do not believe the government is waiting to be pressurized. I believe Dr. Jagdeo and his boss, our President, Excellency Irfan Ali, and Vikram Bharat cabinet are waiting, trying to use psychology and coercion to get the facts. Or they might hire some expert on their own. I have this faith in the government of this country. But if in any way the government, as it's accused, is conniving, I will disagree with that, but I doubt that will ever happen. They said, notwithstanding being abetted by the government, Exxon plays the Guyanese people for dummies to believe that the oil reserve calculation is so complicated to require years. So making it look like it takes years to know how much oil we have in that barrel in this new reserve that they have found. The very way they were trying to say, you got to hurry, Dr. Jagdeo, and sign this contract because the bad winter weather is coming. And we don't have winter weather in Guyana. So I just want to clear that up for what it is worth. That it will take years. Why and what kind of government would want to connive with a foreign company to hide our God-given wealth and the amount in our bank account? I agree with that again. It is our money. It is the people's money. And the government is a servant. The ministers are the servant. The president is the servant. I have a problem with that. With the APNU Ministry of the Presidency, Mr. Harmon, when I said that, and he tried to destroy me completely. But later on, when he was getting into trouble, he admitted that the government is the servant of the people, but he didn't like that and tried to destroy my business. And we are supposed to know what kind of a money we have in our bank account. ExxonMobil had said the company is no longer focused on providing updates on the number of barrels added to its resource base, but on monetizing these resources. So I will ask ExxonMobil, monetizing the resources for whom? And why you're making it look so difficult that you will not concentrate or focus yourself on providing updates on the number of barrels added to the resource? Why? This looks very suspicious, and I think it's making the government look bad if what they're saying is true. ExxonMobil need to be corrected and put in their place. These large conglomerates, I always wonder, they're going to poor countries, they will take everything out and leave the countries demolished like we saw in many countries in Africa. The chief policy maker for the sector, Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, had agreed with the company's position to hide the new discovery figures from the public. I don't like the word hide. Maybe, I believe, Dr. Jagdeo needs confirmation to ensure. Hiding is a very strong word, and I do not like to think that the former president would want to say that. During a press conference at the office of the vice president, the vice president said the question of Exxon's update of the resources is not as serious an issue as it is being made out to be by some industry stakeholders. His opinion is not so important. Why? My take is that it will be done later. Let us concentrate on other important things, and that can come later. That is not as important, even though he's not saying it is not important. It is saying here it is not as serious an issue as it is being made out to be. Not as serious an issue. He said Exxon's announcement or lack thereof will not change the fact that there is a discovery already there for the benefit of the country. So what's the problem? Is that we know that it's there. The discovery is there. He's making some sense here. It is just a matter of timing when we increase our reserve or not. In fact, they, Exxon, have a greater kind of need to do that because globally they look at your reserve and that helps to move stock prices for Exxon. But they decided that they want to focus more on appraisals as to how many barrels are in these discoveries. All right, that's to do with stock market and all of that. And the vice president said overall, the Exxon move to focus on monetizing the discovered resources is a logical step. Well, I'm not an economist, but we could just know how many barrels is there. Once you get in there, you know how many barrels. Is it that difficult? Mr. Vice President, I understand you're using your experience in the economics, but at the same time, I, as a citizen of this country, I would like to know how many barrels are there. They can monetize how much they want. What is so difficult to tell us how many barrels are there? It must be understood also that these big conglomerate of institutions and organizations and individuals must understand we die, we end, we are destroyed sometime and we go in the grave and we can take nothing with us. For individuals and corporations. And individuals and corporations, sooner or later, and countries that are tyrannical, they all must suffer the consequences of divine retribution. Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil, Neil Chapman, later disclosed during the Morgan Stanley's Energy and Power Conference earlier this month that appraisal works were being conducted by the company to understand the resource discovered. That appraisal works. I was of the opinion they would know right away, unless they're trying to trick us. These companies, sometimes, you have to be very careful with them because they will take everything out of your country and leave you totally destroyed. Chapman said we have 6 drilling ships in the basin in pretty close proximity, and these drill ships are doing a combination of what I call exploration drilling, appraisals drilling, and development drilling. In the realm of oil and gas, companies undertake a process known to the industry as appraisal to help the developer determine whether or not a project is viable. The process helps to reduce the range of uncertainty in the value of hydrocarbons in place, define the size and configuration of the reservoir, and collect data for the prediction of the performance of the reservoir during the aforesaid productivity. So you want me to read that back, ladies and gentlemen? He's explaining this. The process helps, this process what they're doing, to reduce the range of uncertainty, to make sure there's not guesswork then, in the volume of hydrocarbons or oil that is in place. So we will not have uncertainty. Define the size and configuration of the reservoir and collect the data from the prediction of the performance of the reservoir during the forecasted production live. So we will know what? Only when they start production. If that is the case, I disagree. We can't wait while they're producing to know, because they will be fetching out. If they are producing, they will be fetching out. All right? This, therefore, means that Exxon has deliberately decided not to update the nation on the issue value of the offshore resources, and also has the blessings of the government to instead rush to pump the country's oil. Well, I don't think that oil is there to be pumped, but I also think that that is the case. The government needs to press to get the facts and to ensure now, with the police mentality that I have, to ensure now that we have another organization, institution, or peoples with the qualification to verify with Exxon. Because in this case, as a result of Mr. Chapman's expression, I'm not trusting what I'm hearing. So I'm calling on the government, on the President, Excellency of Fanali, on Dr. Barrett Jackdale, our point man on oil and gas, that we, the people, need to know what is in our reserves. And that everyone to know, the company, individuals, peoples, and governments must know that one way or the other, we always have to pay when we do wrong things. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr Roshan Khan, in the raw wind as it blows. Look at the breeze, look at the excitement of the leaves and the joys of the trees and life around in the compound that I've been blessed with. My dear friends and family, I thank you, Lord God, for your mercies and your blessings. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr Roshan Khan, in the raw, saying thank you. Farewell.